You know those two guys from work who won't shut up about football, but are pretty damn entertaining? Well, they decided to buy a couple microphones. And with that, we welcome you to the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast, where Justin Adams and Martin Cheney wrangle over everything college football and NFL. Bold predictions, hot takes, and live game reactions. This is Cheesy Corn Sports. And now, here's your hosts, Justin and Martin.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast. We are your hosts, Martin Cheney, joined with Justin Adams. And today, we're going to be going over the top 10 rookie wide receiver rankings in a Dynasty fantasy football format, PPR, no super flex, single quarterback, all that. This is recorded prior to the NFL draft, post NFL combine. So we're not going to be taking into consideration exact draft capital. We will be kind of taking into some estimated draft capital where we think they should go in terms of that nature. But I got nothing else. Justin, what do you got?
Well, that was a hell of an intro, Cheney. Good job.
Thank you.
Yes, like he said in a very long-winded way, we're going over the 2023 wide receiver rookie draft class Dynasty ranking edition. So pre-draft, yes. So we don't know. These are probably going to change pretty significantly after the draft because we'll know situations, we'll know draft capital, stuff like that. So yeah, I'd say let's roll right into it.
All right. Before we get into it, after the draft, make sure to check out our next series of videos where we're going to be discussing the rising and fallings of these rankings. Now that we actually have the landing spots into it, we'll go position by position again and really solidify our rankings before we get into rookie draft season. With that being said, let's get into these actual rankings. Justin, who do you have at wide receiver 10?
My top 10 begins with Trey Palmer from Nebraska. All right. Hear me out. I'm not biased or I'd be higher in my rankings, but the way that man stretches the field is ridiculous. He's good height, but very, very slight frame. He can play on the slot, can play on the outside, but his speed is what makes him just a complete playmaker. I think he had the fastest wide receiver time in the combine at 4.33. His route running tree is amazing. His route running ability is great. Big playability, like I said, that's a big thing. He was honestly took the top off of so many teams in Nebraska's offense. I feel like the majority of his plays were just boom plays. And then, the big deficiencies that I think dropped him down a little bit for me is just his hands are very inconsistent. He'd come out, make a spectacular catch, and then he would drop two easy ones. So he's really got to kind of step that up if he wants to be, consistent target hog. And contested catches aren't his strength. Again, his slight frame, he doesn't really have a lot of strength and physicality. So he's not going to win a lot of those jump balls, contested catches. Yeah, and so the biggest strength, hands. But outside of that, I think he will be a pretty solid slot guy with the ability to blow the top off of the defense. So he's my number 10.
All right. Before I get into my 10, I just want to go through like just a few names that didn't really make my cut. And they're all for a specific, basically the same reason. There are so many smaller slot guys in this draft class that you could put in this 9 to 10 range, but they didn't really have that extra it factor to really stand out and actually make the cut for me. So those guys are Tank Dell out of Houston, Parker Washington, Rakeem Jarrett is another, and Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. All those guys, they all did well in college. You know, they have something about them that does, you know, do well on the field, but either they're too small, like Tank Dell's 5'8", we were talking about it earlier, or they didn't stand out enough of college production to really promote themselves to get a higher draft capital. So, I mean, I don't know. I do like the Trey Palmer pick. Didn't make my list, but I had a feeling with that 4-3-3 in addition to Husker Nation, go Big Red, right? Yeah. But at number 10 for me, I have out of Wake Forest, A.T. Perry coming in at a very large 6'4", definitely one of the larger or taller receivers in this draft class. He did come in under 200 pounds, 198, which is actually, it's right around the middle of this draft class, slightly below average. But yeah, A.T. Perry, I mean, he was fantastic his junior year, 71 catches, just under 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. When targeted, his QB had a QB rating of 122.2, and that's only on his targets. That's fantastic. Last year as a senior, 70 catches, just under 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. Again, that QB rating targeted north of 100. What puts him apart is, like I said, there's a lot of smaller guys in this draft class. There's not a lot of outside receivers. So if you are a Minnesota Vikings who just lost your red zone receiver in Adam Thielen, or someone like that who you need to be able to go up and get those contested catches, this is your guy that you can get on day 2 or even day 3 in the draft. That is my wide receiver 10. Justin, I'm not going to take wide receiver 9. I'm just going to pass it right back over to you, and we can go just back and forth with that. Who is your wide receiver 9?
All right. So my wide receiver 9, Michael Wilson out of Stanford. Michael Wilson, a guy that I'm not sure if he's on a lot of people's top 10s. Not sure if he's on yours, but we'll find out. By the way, we didn't compare top 10s before this, so this is completely new to us as well. But yeah, Michael Wilson, good hands. You know, he's going to be a sure-handed type of guy. He has versatility, plays slot, play out wide. He pretty strong in contested catches. I would say that's one of his strengths, is contested catch situations. He's really pretty good against both coverages, whether it's man or zone. He tends to run about 50-50 on those, with pretty good route running and just an overall feel for the field. And, he's just a very good overall high IQ player. And he's not super overly explosive. He's not going to kill you with speed. He's not super quick twitch, but what he is going to get you is a lot of receptions. He didn't play a full season. I think his last full season was 2019. So that's a concern too. Separation isn't great, with the speed similar. It's not enough to create a lot of separation. So that's why he's going to win a lot of times on the underneath stuff. And for his size, I feel like he should win a lot more contested catches than he does. He will win more than the overall average receiver, but for his size, I think he could definitely do a lot more than that. I would say he's very similar traits to, let's say, Palmer. So I will pass the mic to you because I'm curious to see what your 9 is, because these can be completely different. So
they are.
Let's hear it.
And I'm actually very happy that they are different. It kind of goes into the, we are not the same person. We don't have the same mind when it comes to
not
this
even
stuff.
Close.
We look for completely different stuff. In fact, the arguments that would ensue from those is what kind of came to the conception of this show to begin with. So, at number 9, or I'm sorry, I'll say this. I don't have Michael Wilson in my top 10.
Okay. I thought you might not.
I looked at him. I did, but he didn't make the cut for me. At number 9, I have Southern Methodist receiver Rasheed Rice. Played in 10 plus games every single year of his college career. Always had at least 400 yards. 20, 25 catches his freshman year, and then grew to 47 catches his sophomore year, 64 his junior year, and had a whopping 96 catches his senior year with 10 touchdowns. He was an All-America second team awardee, which is incredibly hard to do at a school such as SMU. He was a Biletnikoff semifinalist. Again, incredibly hard to do at that school. He's a natural playmaker, incredible catch radius over the middle of the field. An excellent route runner when it comes to like the shorter type routes. All of this kind of screams at you, good slot guy. Pair that with his 6'1", 205-pound frame. That's exactly the type of size and skill set that you're looking for in a slot receiver, which we are seeing a lot more of in the NFL with the RPO offense kind of taking over with a lot of these dual threat quarterbacks as well. So insane consistency throughout college, decent frame, tall. He's not super lanky like Devontae Smith is, or any of that stuff. So again, probably more of a third round, day 3 type of selection. But he can do some stuff with the ball once you get it into his hands. With that being said, we'll go back to you here as we are just moving right along. Tell me about wide receiver 8.
All right, so my wide receiver 8 is going to be Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. Also may not be in your top 10, but we'll see. What I like about Jaden Reed is basically his versatility and his consistency and balance across the board. I found a little table here with some numbers from his past season and his kind of win rates and stuff. So against against man coverage, his success rate is 70.3% on 40% of his total routes run against man. Zone, which was 60% of his routes, he has a 79.2% success rate. Both of those put him in the upper 50th percentile. And then against press, he is 16.9% of his routes with a 77.8% success rate, which put him in the 87th percentile. So he's very good at just doing what a wide receiver should do. The success rate versus press is one of the better things that I think can put him in a little bit higher echelon. I think that's why he climbed his way on my top 10, because that is a pretty high rate for college receiver. So I just think he's a good route runner. Again, he's able to get down and he's explosive from the hips. Again, just the win rate has me believing that I think he can be a very consistent wide receiver 2 on a team. But yeah, kind of Terry McLaurin-esque, I'd say. So Jaden Reed.
All right. Love it. Love it. I love the difference in our list. I'm not going to lie. My wide receiver 8, the guy that I'm considering kind of the Zach Evans of the wide receiver group. Big name, big high school recruit, was hindered by a lot of injuries, never really, saw the elite production. And that is LSU's Kayshon Boutte. Was just 5-star grade, out of high school, went to LSU. as a freshman, started off great. 45 catches, 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, which, as a freshman is fantastic. Had a great game that year against Ole Miss where he set the SEC record, 300 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. That's insane. That's some Will Fuller 5 touchdown game from Deshaun Watson with Houston type of elite. Shout out to Will Fuller, by the way. I had him on my fantasy team that year. That's the only reason I remember it. But from there, it was nothing ever really got going in terms of a full season for Boutte. He, played in only 6 games as a sophomore. He did play in 11 games last year, but it was always on and off the field. Only hauled in 48 catches, only 2 touchdowns. So the production isn't really as consistent as you might want out of one of your top receivers. However, he moves incredibly well. Every time you look up a scouting report on it, they always talk about how fluid he is when he runs his routes, when he moves with the ball. He has really good hands. He plays a lot faster than the 4.5 that he ran at the combine. Not really sure if that was just like a bad thing, or if it was something hindering or lingering from his leg injury a season or 2 ago. We'll have to see what that is. He was off to an incredible start in 2021. He only played in 6 games that year, but he had over 500 receiving yards, which is, on track if you, do the whole extrapolate the data across an entire season. That's fantastic. He is a little bit smaller, 5'11", 195. Again, it's in that below average for this receiver class. And then you pair that with the 4.5. That's why he's further down on my list. I don't even know if he's on your list at all. He might have fallen off completely. I know for a lot of people he has. I'm always partial to the name with the production, with everything else. I try to keep everything he's only 20 years old. I try to keep everything in touch, and he should fall somewhere, hopefully, and do good things in the pros. So, moving on. Wide receiver 6. What do you got?
Before we move on, did you have Jaden Reed in your top 10? Or do you?
I do not.
Okay. And I don't have Kayshon Boutte in mine. Not a fan. Wasn't a fan before the scandal. Definitely not a fan after. So
I didn't even bring up the scandal.
Yeah. That's a whole
wild stuff.
It's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we on? 5?
6.
6. Can we run it back?
Shit! No, I'm sorry. 7.
Let's run it back.
Okay.
I want to compare other ones. So, who was your 10?
A.T. Perry.
Okay. So I had Xavier Hutchinson, Rasheed Rice as my first 2 out. Michael Wilson was my 10. He's not on your list. Rasheed Rice is not on mine. Then Jaden Reed, you didn't have him on your list.
Right.
So far out the gates, we have 4 people who aren't on the others' lists. Just wanted to check that one out. Very interesting. All right. So we're off to a roaring start. I like this. My next one, 7, I think we're on, is Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt. He's not really the best against press, double coverage. He's not going to be a guy who's going to win you off the line and stuff like that. His route tree isn't very expansive, but he can kind of become more of a deep field threat in the NFL if he would get better at kind of selling his deeper routes and stuff like that. And he really isn't good at the dig routes either, really cutting those dig routes off and stuff like that. So his route running leaves a lot to be desired, but he's a natural vertical receiver, so he's going to be able to get the ball, stretch the field and stuff like that. Speaking of who we talked about earlier, Will Fuller, I would say this is a perfect kind of comparison to Will Fuller. Very, very similar in his success rates versus different coverages and stuff like that. So even when he doesn't, kind of even show up maybe in the stat sheet and stuff like that, just the threat of him being there, again, very similar to Fuller. I would say it's a very, very just 1A, 1B kind of in like their prospect profiles coming out. But yeah, he's just the threat of him being out there and being able to stretch the field. They have to account for that, just like they had to do with Fuller and that left Hopkins open. So, yeah, I would say he has the potential, has a very high upside, but I also think he has a very low floor. I don't think he's quite as a high floor as the previous guys I spoke of. I think all of them have much higher floors outside of Trey Palmer, but I do think he does have the ability to go into a team and really just be able to take the top off and do it well and just continue to get better with his deep route running and stuff like that and refine into a higher echelon receiver.
Okay. My wide receiver 7.
He's not in yours either, huh? No, Jalen Hyatt's probably in yours. Oh,
Jalen Hyatt is in mine, yes.
Oh, it's probably number 7.
No, it's not. My wide receiver 7 is basically what Kayshon Boutte, who was my wide receiver 8, was supposed to be. A highly touted recruit coming in, but actually had consistency. And this is Marvin Mims Jr. out of Oklahoma. Same height as Boutte at 5'11". He's on the lankier side, measuring in at 183. However, ran a 4.38 in comparison to Boutte's 4.5, which the 4.38 was, I think, top 3 or 4 in the wide receiver group in the combine. Elite vertical, elite broad jump, pretty average 3-cone, 10-yard splits. That's fine. And then, so you have those measurables, and then you also have the consistent production in his college career. This is a guy that was frequently put in a position for shorter routes, but his skill set pretty clearly was begging for him to get those longer routes. The super high vertical with good hands. He's an excellent downfield vertical threat, which is pretty crazy to think about because he's 5'11". He's a great run after the catch ball carrier as well. He was productive in college. He's got good hands, excellent downfield, but utilized underneath. One of the biggest gripes on him is he was actually underused. If you look at his numbers, only 37 receptions as a freshman, only 32 catches as a sophomore, only 52 catches as a junior. But you got to look at the yards per catch, right? So as a freshman, had 16.5 yards per reception, 9 touchdowns, by the way, with a QB rating when targeted of 139.5, which is insane. Sophomore year, 32 catches, 705 yards for 22 yards per catch. 5 touchdowns, QB rating when targeted 148. Again, insane. And then as a junior last year, 52 catches, 1,000 yards, 19.3 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns, QB rating of 122.4. Like that, once you actually break it down and just go further than he didn't have as many catches or yards as say A.T. Perry, who had 1,400 yards, whatever. The yards per catch is exactly what you want in those deep threat receivers. Big play type guy. He can definitely, he's what Marvin Mims is what took over after CeeDee Lamb left a couple years ago and went to the pros. Marvin Mims was what remained. And because of the production and everything, I'm actually pretty excited to see what scheme he falls into, to really see if he's going to rise even higher in my rankings. Probably not, or fall even lower. But that is my wide receiver 7 who do you have at wide receiver 6?
So my next wide receiver is going to be Josh Downs. By the way, Marvin Mims is in my rankings, so just FYI. But I have Josh Downs, and Josh Downs is kind of getting higher and higher on a lot of people's radars here. But he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He caught 101 passes, 1,335 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He finished his collegiate career right here. I got the number 2022 season, 94 catches, 1,029 yards, 10.9 yards per catch, and 11 touchdowns. So he was the difference is he was used a ton in the slot in 2021, and he was really doing a lot of screen work to take care of the rack, because his ability to break tackles and make people miss after the reception is his strong suit. That's what's going to make him. It's really just trying to get the ball to him in space and stuff like that. So it's really just trying to get him touches, which I think is why he would be super valuable in Dynasty, because whoever gets him is going to want to get the ball in his hands. So he was really never pressed. So he had full ability to run his routes and stuff like that. So, it was in 2022, his receptions from the slot went down, which kind of, bumped him up a little bit too, because he wasn't just used as much as a slot receiver. He was able to kind of expand a little bit, and not much, but he was still primarily a slot receiver, because that's where they're going to get him in space a lot more. But he did line up on the boundaries a few times, which we didn't see in the previous season very much. And he actually had a couple of, deeper catches, I would say 20 yards and beyond, throughout the course of the season, which he didn't have the prior year. So he's good at contested catches. He's twitchy, he's quick, explosive with his route running. Josh Downs is just somebody like, I don't know. He grew on me over time. I feel like he grew on a lot of people over time, but I couldn't quite slide him up more than this. I almost did. I flirted with him in my top 3 at one point, but this is where he lands. So,
gotcha. And we have now finally gotten at least onto the same page in terms of the names on these rankings. I don't think there should be any more big surprises in terms of names, just the order that we put them. So my wide receiver 6, and this is where I have Jalen Hyatt, the Blitnikoff winner, ran a 4.4 at the combine. I honestly think he can probably run faster than that. He is coming off of was it him or Hooker that got hurt, or both? I know Hooker got hurt for sure.
It was Hendon Hooker. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Jalen Hyatt, he did have a tremendous year last year. Obviously, the Blitnikoff winner, had the 5 touchdown game against Alabama that, everyone was a Tennessee fan that day, because everyone hates Alabama, unless you're an Alabama fan. But so I don't have him in my top 5 for the reason that he didn't really do much outside of the 1 year. And I'm kind of hesitant, when it comes to players just having the one good year. I don't really know what it was actually, which it can be a fault for me. I was actually pretty hesitant on Joe Burrow coming out of college for the same reason. But obviously I was wrong on that one. This is a humble show. We acknowledge when we're wrong. But yeah. So,
well, you do. I have yet to be wrong.
Okay.
Mainly because the content we've been doing, none of them have played yet. So
that's true.
That helps. I can't be wrong.
You can't be wrong until they play. So you at least have a few.
Good.
Yeah, but So Jalen Hyatt, he runs track as well.
So he fast.
He can. He does have elite speed. The major concern for him is, like you touched on, the press. Pretty insane stat actually for a Biletnikoff winning season. He only had 18 targets when he was pressed, and he only caught one of them, which is pretty insane. There's kind of questions regarding the transition from the Tennessee offense, that weird kind of like stack spread kind of thing, where he's just naturally in a position to not be pressed when he's behind in the stack, to actually sizing up a NFL corner, whether it be a slot corner or outside or whatever. We don't know what that'll look like. Now, skinnier receivers can work. Devontae Smith is a fantastic receiver. But Jalen Hyatt, he's a great route runner. He does create separation on those outs. Like you said, good against zone coverage, good against off-ball man. He's in reliable hands, good focus. This past year definitely helped him in terms of everything, regarding to player of the week against Alabama. He was a mid-season All-American, which is, I didn't even know was a thing, but he was all SEC, first team, Maxwell Award semifinalist. Again, Biletnikoff winner, as I've said for like the 6th time in this.
We get it, Cheney. He won stuff.
I'm not gonna say anything else on him. Let's move on. Jalen Hyatt at number 6 for me. Who do you got at number 5?
Hold on. I want to leave some suspense here. So
okay.
I have to go use the bathroom. So if he wants to cut this out or just put in some music while I'm away, either will work.
Some elevator music while you're gone, and kind of do like a little
Benny Hill music, put on some death metal, whatever. I will be right back after these messages. All right, so I will hop into my next on my list, and it is Jordan Addison out of USC. Significantly lower than most people probably have him. I know that. But, one of his major, things is I know a lot of people didn't like his speed at his combine, but, he, in a football sense, he made it happen in college. He created big plays for USC's offense. He was very consistent in that. He's quick at the line of scrimmage, very, very good in lateral movement. He's a good route runner, but he recognizes coverage very well. And he has a fluidity, but he's very, very slight. He doesn't really have much of a frame to put muscle onto. So I don't think he's going to be able to bulk up too terribly much. It's not like a Giannis Antetokounmpo situation where he just turns into the Greek Incredible Hulk, but he just doesn't have that frame on him. So he's going to have to, adapt to a game where he doesn't necessarily have that strength. So he's not going to be able to do, go up and win a lot of contested catches. He's not going to be able to get off of press coverage like most. He's good height, very, very slim though. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be able to put on weight overall. He's just a pretty good athlete, quick. But yeah, he can play the game quick. He can process things fast, but again, just a lot of the other stuff I'm really not a fan of. Yeah. So that is my number 5.
I have Josh Downs at my wide receiver 5. The 5'9", 171 pound Josh Downs. He's not. I mean, he ran a 4.48 at the combine. So if you're that small, you kind of wish they were running a bit faster. That's the negatives. Let's get into the truckload of positives. 2,000-yard seasons over the course of his college career, one as a sophomore, where he saw 63 catches, 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. And then last year, almost 1,300 yards on 83 catches with 14 touchdowns. A lot of them being in the red zone, which is pretty insane for as small as he is. He just kind of burst onto the scene from his sophomore year on. He was a Biletnikoff Award semifinalist. He led the ACC in receptions, both in 2021 and 2022, in which he earned 2 first-team All-ACC honors as well. Another one of those guys that he does have insane speed on the field, incredible acceleration, and honestly, that might help make up for the 4.48 is the acceleration and how fast he can reach that top speed. His vertical jump is insane. I think only second to Marvin Mims. So, and that definitely makes up for the height as well a little bit. He's got crazy footwork off the line of scrimmage, which you kind of need when it comes to playing against press coverage. I've seen a lot of player comps towards the likes of like Tyler Lockett. There have been some kind of like Rondale Moore kind of thing, but I don't really like the pro comp, 1 or 2 year guys to rookies, just because it's like, I just don't like it. I think it's disrespectful, honestly.
Especially one on that team.
Right? Like, you don't see me comping any running back to, like, just some weird...
Ken Walker?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
You can, but yeah.
I think Ken Walker would be even better. Like, I was going to say some weird, like, nobody name, like, fucking Leon Washington. Like, shout out if you know who Leon Washington is, by the way.
I don't.
He was like a 7th round pick or undrafted back in like the 2006 class or some shit like that. Like,
we're talking about old.
Yeah, I was just saying like a nobody or whatever. But anyway, Josh Downs, he's got great hands. I love the contradiction that he has with his height in regards to the red zone usage.
Yo, that was a word.
Yeah. Red zone usage. And I would love to see him continue to kind of break that status quo in the pros. I think, 2nd, 3rd round draft capital would do him insanely well. The college production is really what is carrying him here, not necessarily the measurables. But would love to see him get into the slot for a quick moving team and move downfield. Who do you got as we move inside the top 5 now to the wide receiver 4?
My number 4 is going to be Marvin Mims. As I said, we continue the trend of having the same players within our top 7. So I do think that will hold from here. But Marvin Mims is my number 4. Very reliable hands. He started his career not very good in the contested catches, but he improved significantly over time, and it's become one of his strengths. He's able to play the special teams. He's not very athletic. I think that's one of the things that hinders him because, again, out of high school, very high rate recruit, but he lacked that ability to step him into the elite. Those traits that you need, the explosiveness, the quick release, the strong hips. So I mean, overall, he's fast, runs a 4.38. You would like him to be a little bit more quick decision, be able to extend the plays a little bit more after the catch. But yeah, I mean, overall, I really like his ability to grow and evolve as a receiver. He's shown that development. Again, with a coaching change too, in the middle of his career, and quarterback changes throughout his career. So, again, just love the guy with the hands. Very reliable. I do think he's going to be a very solid wide receiver 2 or 3. On an offense, I think I'm leaning more towards 2, but I think his upside is just very limited by his athleticism. So I don't think he'll get much beyond kind of that ability without being able to develop that explosiveness. And he has yet to do that in his career. So it's not promising that he will. So, yep, Marvin Mims is my number 4. So go ahead and take it away, Janie.
All right. Continuing the contradiction of size for me, at wide receiver 4 is the Boston College all-time leading receiver, Zay Flowers. Another 5'9", insanely fast in the open field. Insane balance in and out of his breaks. Great footwork, good hands. Did only clock in at 182 weight-wise, which is definitely undersized with 5'9". But with that being said, he actually played a large majority of his college snaps on the outside, which is, again, like pretty strange to see. And that's really what I like to see with these smaller guys in my top 5 is what sets them apart, right? For Josh Downs, it was the red zone targets. Zay Flowers, it was the ability to play, not only the ability to play outside, but the ability to play outside well and consistently. He tracks the ball in the air very well. So on those deeper routes, he doesn't lose sight of the ball and knows exactly when and where to go up for it. He was frequently put in different catch and run situations, which always speaks well to a PPR receiver. And once you start to get those things on the resume, the size starts to matter less and less. So you put him on a fast-moving, quick-hitting offense, and I think Zay Flowers is going to be fantastic. Does have a bit of a smaller catch radius, which isn't really something you can help with. But, I mean, you have an NFL quarterback, should be able to hit you where you need to have it. You know what I mean? And with him projecting to be a little bit later, kind of towards the end of end of a round, probably like the end of the second round would be ideal, because then he could go into one of those teams that has the higher caliber quarterback that can put it where he needs to put it, and then he can establish that chemistry with him. So that is my wide receiver 4. Let's get into this top 3. Who do you got at 3?
All right. Really interested to see this more than anything is our top 3. So my number 3 is going to be Quentin Johnston. We all kind of know the size thing with him is his strength. But going into it, I wasn't really a big fan of QJ. I thought he was overrated. But the more I kind of looked into it, again, out of high school as a 4-star recruit and was a top 75 prospect overall nationally. And he seemed to be better than that in the pros. So he's tall, athletic. He's got the ability to stretch the field because he's got such long strides. Catches with the hands, which doesn't lead to a lot of drops from him. So he's pretty sure-handed. He has a little bit of explosiveness and burst. His run after the catch is what stands out with him, is his ability to create after the receptions too, more so for a guy his size. So, and just a few things that I didn't like about him that knocked him down from 2 to 3. He's jumped from 4 to 2 to 3. He's very limited in his ability to make quick, sharp cuts, which does affect some of his route tree. Again, he's very upright. So like that kind of tends to slow him down. And he really doesn't line up inside at all. He was pretty much an X receiver. So he doesn't have that versatility, but I still think his size, his speed, and his vertical, ability is going to be kind of what gets teams excited to have him. And I think he's more of a. I'm excited to see what he will develop into, because I think he has the ability. There's instances where a player, you look at his college game and yes, it's good, but it doesn't stand out to you. But I do think he has the ability to get even better in the pros, have a better pro career than he did collegiate career per se. And that's not uncommon. That does happen from time to time. And I think he has the possibility to be that. So he comes in at my number 3.
All right. I will touch on Quentin Johnston later in this video. My number 3 is someone I'm actually surprised you had him a little bit lower, is Jordan Addison. I'm kind of done talking about the size of receivers, because I feel like I'm just kind of saying it over and over again. They're between 5'9" and 5'11". Like, yeah, that's basically it. But that's kind of the way that we're kind of trending in the NFL nowadays. Smaller guys, faster guys. That's what they want.
You completely flip-flop. Your whole philosophy just changed.
I know
over
it
the
did.
course of these
so
rankings.
let's take 10 through
so
6.
I think you fell in love with some guys. I think you fell in love with some guys, and I think these are the guys you fell in love with. So
let's take 10 through 6.
Not saying I didn't.
And we'll put it in one sense of logic, and then we'll take 5 through 1, and we'll call them the outliers, even though they're consistent.
You just got to go with your heart, man.
What hit me most about Jordan Addison is not the Biletnikoff winning season as a junior with
Here we go again.
His sophomore year with Pittsburgh, right? Kenny Tiny Hands Pickett at quarterback, had 100 catches, almost 1,600 yards, 17 touchdowns. That is, it's astounding. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that he transferred to USC in a completely different system, completely different quarterback that he's never played with, still puts up 875 yards, still puts up 8 touchdowns. Obviously, that's nowhere near the numbers that he did when he won the awards, but the fact that he was able to transition seamlessly to another offense with another team, new quarterback, new coach, new everything, and still put up impressive numbers like that, is where in a team where he was no longer just the one guy, right? That's something with Quentin Johnston that I'm going to touch on, is the fact that there's nobody else on that team to throw to, on that TCU team to throw to. With Pittsburgh, there was nobody else to throw to other than Jordan Addison. With USC, that was different. And he still puts up a good 60 catch, almost 900 yard season. So that's definitely good. He is insanely athletic. He has a good combination of his speed, vision, balance, all that stuff. Like I said, a good athlete. Has an elite change of direction. He can just cut on a dime. He's the second best route runner in this draft class. He would be the first best route runner, if not for the absolute tactician that all of us that hopefully all of us have at wide receiver 1. But he's just a slippery runner. He's surprisingly very tough.
Slippery, huh?
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't feel right coming out, but at the same time, like you said, just got to roll with it.
Slippery.
But he's very tough. He can take hits and get up and keep going, which at 170 pounds is, good on you. So that's what I got. Pair that with the hopefully late first round draft capital. and we should see some sparks fly with Jordan Addison. All right, wide receiver dose. Hopefully, this is the last difference in names that we have. What do you got?
You know, JSN has been my guy from
Right.
last year till now, who's going to be the top receiver in this draft. I've been consistent on that. Him and CJ Stroud. I'm not an Ohio State fan, clearly, so nobody can say I'm biased. So, yeah. So my number
just Big Ten bias, right?
No. Hear me out. No. That's all I got to say on that. I'll plead the fifth. Suspense is killing you, I know. So I'm going to get into my number 2. It is going to be Zay Flowers. Again, this is my first contradicting of the size thing, but the reason why is I think his ability is going to give him the chance to be a elite receiver in the NFL, because I think his skill set is so well-rounded and so good that his size, he's going to be able to work around that size a lot more than the other people. And I just don't think a lot of these other guys have the skill set to really work around that size thing. So I think they're very limited in their upside. I don't think that was Zay Flowers. So he has, he can work in every level of the defense. Like he has the quickness and speed to move anywhere and get him the ball in space. Again, he's another one of the receivers, get him move and get the ball in space, which is becoming a lot more common in the NFL is movement and getting guys on the perimeter, getting guys in space. And to your point, that's why some of these smaller guys are successful, but I would say their success rate is very, very much lower. So that's why Zay Flowers slides into here. So, he's good with the ball in his hands. He's good as a route runner. He has exceptional burst. He can accelerate quickly. He can run after the catch. He creates. That's the biggest thing for him is he'll be able to create for an offense. He'll be able to go out there and flow, create, and he's just got to avoid injury. He needs to make sure that he's smart. He's getting the ball in space, but he's not really taking a lot of punishment because that's the only way he's going to continue to be on the field enough to develop and, stay on the field and actually step into the upper echelon. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for him that makes me like him too is I believe he's going to sneak in the back of the first round. Personally, that was a big thing to me. I know Quentin Johnston, of course, is going to go higher. Jordan Addison is going to go higher, but if he can get that first round draft capital, that really will put him in the same kind of playing field as those guys as far as what kind of opportunity they're going to get. I do think Zay Flowers has the upside to be very, very good because he's going to be able to make big plays and create a ton of offense for wherever he goes. So Zay Flowers comes in at my number 2.
All right. And at number 2 for me, this is where I have QJ, Quentin Johnston. I can finally settle back into the size argument, right? QJ is just a physical freak. I'm not saying he is DK Metcalf. Let me get that out of the way. But he is the DK Metcalf of this draft class. Him along with Anthony Richardson, they kind of won the combine as far as the physical traits. His broad jump is listed in the 99th percentile. His 40.5-inch vertical is just insane. First among all wide receivers on there. Huge wingspan. Put that with an average 4'5", 240. So he's matching the speed and athleticism that all these other receivers have, but he's doing it with 4 or 5 more inches of height added to him. All-team Big 12 in 2021. I'm not going to touch too much on his stats simply because TCU was not a passing team, right? TCU, Max Duggan was great this year, but he was, it was Max Duggan doing it on his feet. It was Kendra Miller doing it, with Max Duggan on the ground. However, Quentin Johnston, an insane height, weight, great contested ball catcher. Pause. Some scouts are saying that he has like the best combo of speed, acceleration, and size, which I would agree with once you throw that size argument into there. He, just if you're looking for a red zone target and you don't have an elite like tight end, receiving tight end, this is going to be your guy. He is just, physically, I can't say enough about him. What doesn't put him at wide receiver 1 for me, apart from JSN just being in a class by his own, the route tree isn't fully complete. Again, that comes with the TCU offense and not really just having that development with it. But the target share was insane for QJ, but there begs the question of, okay, well, is that because he physically demanded the ball that much, or was it because TCU just really didn't have anyone else to throw to, and he's just kind of the easy target? We won't have that answer until he gets to the pros. So until that question is answered for me, he's going to be at wide receiver 2. And all right, let's finish this one out. We don't even have to really, give the whole big drum roll. Justin, start us off at wide receiver 1.
Again, just like a running back video, this is what you love, having a pretty much surefire consensus number 1 overall at the position. However, it leaves these rankings with much to be desired because there's not a lot of variation at the top. But it was interesting coming out of the season into this. JSN was the 3rd ranked receiver in a lot of people's rankings. Addison, QJ flipped from 1 to 2. And then slowly people stopped caring about JSN's hamstring and actually looked at the film and saw what he's capable of. Quick story about how JSN got put on to my radar. I know everybody's big coming out party to JSN was the Utah game. We all saw what he did there. 300 yards, whatever. He just went berserk. That was kind of his coming out party, right? Because back then he was playing with, he played in the same offense as Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, so for him, that's where he broke out in a lot of people's eyes. For me, it was the year before, where those players were out. Olave and Wilson were out. So JSN was the wide receiver 1 in that game. They were playing Nebraska. I don't know if I already said that. I might have. Scatterbrain. But he had over 200 yards in that game. We could not stop him. We could not double, triple team him. He found a way to get an opening in that field no matter what we threw at him. He made one of the most insane catches I've ever seen, which is why here in a second I'm going to talk about his body control, because if I don't know, I hope if our editor can find that video, find it, but if not, go YouTube that and look at Jackson Smith and Jigba's catch against Nebraska. It's pretty insane. JSN was not a biased thing, because the way I found out about him is he completely torched my team and put me into a significant slight depression because we lost. Yeah, so I'll get into it a little bit. I'll be quick and concise because I've already said a lot of words and we're running out of time, even though we're not on a time limit. But you got to go to bed. So slender frame, good height, 6 foot. You're not upset at that. But he has enough 196. He's enough size to kind of stay healthy if he stops taking big hits. He's too comfortable taking big hits. That's another problem. He is very good laterally. He's kind of like I said earlier, with his body control, right? He's able to contort his body and stuff like that, and it helps him to adjust and make catches, but that ability also helps him be very deceptive in his route running. So he's great body control. He has actually really good jumping ability, for a guy who's not really, super explosive. But he can still jump pretty good. And he does tend to use that against defenders to go up and get a ball. If it's coming at them both, to go up and over him to get a ball, or he's just very good at attacking the ball with that and attacking it in the air. He does have he has good top end speed, but his acceleration is not really all that great. He doesn't have great burst, great acceleration. Like I said, he doesn't have a lot of explosiveness. He's not going to run away from a lot of defenders in the open field. He's great at making tough catches, like I said, but he does have the tendency to catch with his body and not his hands. So he does tend to have some drops, but then makes the insane catches. So, but he can work on that's something that can easily be remedied. And a lot of the flaws that he has, he makes up for it with his insane ability elsewhere and his strengths elsewhere. He accounts for the lack of his explosiveness, his acceleration, by being an excellent, very deceptive route runner and giving himself area to work, sitting down in a zone enough to where you're going to have, room to work in open space to get some rack. So the big question mark is the hamstring, of course. Soft muscle tissue tears, those can be a thorn in the side. But you got to understand, he took the entire, basically, last season off. His hamstring's gonna be fine by the time he comes this season. It's had like 2 years to heal. I think he will be okay with that, so I'm not too concerned about it. But yeah, JSN, love the guy. I've loved him since after I came over my depression, and really had a chance to watch him. And he's very, very fun to watch if you are into the just fine-tuned details of wide receiver position, route running, stuff like that. Take it away, Cheney.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to say, right?
I said I was going to be concise, and then I just didn't shut up again.
Everything that I wanted to touch on regarding JSN, like, you hit on. I didn't even want to like pull up his stats, just because like I thought that's what you were going to roll with, but then you never did. Obviously, Big Ten receiving records, Ohio State school records as in 2021, just under 100 yards, 16 or just under six or just over 1,600 yards, just under 100 receptions, and that was as the third receiver on the depth chart behind the likes of Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, who are great dynasty wide receivers right now in the NFL. Yeah. Fifth most receptions in Big Ten history in the season. Set a Rose Bowl record, 347 receiving yards, 15 receptions, 3 touchdowns. That was the game you mentioned. And it didn't just start there, right? Like, he was a Texas 6A State Player of the Year. He was ranked number 5 overall in the state of Texas coming out of high school. So, I mean, Texas high school football, top of the top, goes to a top school, continues to be top of the top.
And now he's coming to the Texans, bottom of the bottom. Bring him home.
So that's actually kind of the thing, right? Like, we're seeing the trend of pro teams hooking up rookie quarterbacks with their college best friends, right? Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. I mean, you saw the Cardinals do a half-ass attempt with it with Hollywood Brown and Kyler Murray. Who else? Tua and Jalen Waddle is another one. Again, you saw Devontae Adams reunite with Derek Carr last year, RIP. Yeah,
he died.
So his fucking career's basically dead. But yeah, I think written in the stars is Carolina takes Bryce Young at number 1, CJ Stroud to Houston Texans, and then at number 12 overall Houston Texans select wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba. The only weaknesses I ever really saw was the hamstring.
Can you never call him that again?
What?
It irks me when people say Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's just like it's a sound. It's Jackson Smith-Njigba.
This is like the Louisiana kind of thing.
Njigba.
You know,
it's got to flow. Njigba.
Sure.
You do your vocal warm-ups. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying it very aggressively. Continue. Sorry.
Anyway, the only call-outs I had, not as a strength really on him, was the hamstring, which again he has had plenty of time to sit it out. There was the talk that towards the end of the season he could have come back, but he wanted to sit it out to get ready for the draft.
He wanted to be on top of my rankings. That's what he really wanted.
So that, in a nutshell, is everything that encompasses JSN. He will be the top receiver taken in the NFL draft. High draft capital, should be a top 3 pick in rookie drafts, if not 2. Really depending on your needs at that point. But JSN, look, you love the guy, you hate the guy. You can't not love him and his talent.
He's got to come on. He's got to get to the Texans. But it's looking like the Texans don't want to draft a damn quarterback. I don't know when we're expecting to get a quarterback. But apparently we think an edge rusher is going to turn our franchise around, just similar to when we drafted
Mario Williams,
J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney. So and then drafted
it's the blueprint.
and then drafted a 4th round QB last year. We go get our Lord and Savior Davis Mills in the 3rd round, 2 years ago. Third round.
How funny would it be if you guys went back to Stanford and took Tanner McKee in the 3rd round?
Hell no. Tanner McKee is not turning my franchise around.
Neither was
the
Davis
last one.
Mills.
The last one was from Pittsburgh. Davis Mills came in from Stanford, and then now we got our hero trying to come from Stanford again. We're not double dipping in the Stanford pool. And the reason we had to go with him in the 3rd round is because we didn't have a 1st, 2nd round pick.
Right.
Thank you, below Brian. But yeah, JSN, very good. He will be very kind to your fantasy teams. And let's get rolling out of here.
And that is it. That is the Cheesy Corn Sports top 10 rookie wide receiver dynasty rankings pre-draft. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button.
Let us know your rankings.
Let us know your rankings, where you agreed, where you disagreed with us down in the comments.
Tell us we're dumb. Tell me I'm dumb. I'll accept it. I'll agree.
He will not. You will have a fun conversation in the comments.
Don't listen.
But make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you won't miss any future Cheesy Corn Sports action. And make sure to rejoin us post-draft, where we will be talking about the risers and the fallers based on the team landing spots.
A lot of shifting coming up.
A lot of shifting. Thank you guys all for watching today. We will catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Thanks for checking out the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss an episode. For more information or to connect with Justin and Martin, check out Cheesy Corn Sports on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll see you next time on Cheesy Corn Sports.